To no one's surprise, following their earlier intransigence, NATO diplomats yesterday walked out of the Malta Peace Conference. Clearly, peace is not on their agenda. Only threats and deception and endless profits for the capitalist war machine. But our brave comrades in the armed forces will not be intimidated. They stand vigilant along the German border, their resolve unquenchable, ready to deliver...
It was inevitable. Our massive preparations had gone on far too long for us to simply stand down. We were like a coiled spring, ready to throw ourselves into the fray. All we waited for was one word: attack. Spirits were high, and the men joked about how we would crush the enemy with one fell stroke. But some didn't laugh. They had been to Afghanistan. They knew war.
We're getting reports from the Coast Guard about a developing situation at the harbor front. We have a lot of unmarked container ships approaching. They're refusing to identify themselves. Over.
нашу мощь. Теперь освободите небеса.
Освободите небеса.
The Russians took us by surprise. We had been at war for almost 4 months, and still we couldn't understand what was happening. Even as artillery shells started exploding on the streets of Seattle, many people just stood there, stunned by shock and disbelief. War can be fascinating to watch on TV, but up close and personal, it's a whole other story. Imagine your office blown to pieces, your car thrown about like a discarded glove, and your friend lying on the street, his body torn to bloody shreds. That was the reality in Seattle on that fateful day in the fall of '89. The Army was fighting in Europe and elsewhere, and our Navy was supposed to protect us from an invasion. But they failed. They were fooled, as we were all fooled, by the Soviet ruse. But as the first Soviet tanks started rolling off those freighters, a few of us tried to organize a desperate defense. We were not about to give up without a fight.
What is it?
Mr. President, General Morgan, we have a situation developing in Seattle.
A situation, General?
Communications have been sketchy, but it appears that Russian troops have managed to sneak into port using disguised cargo ships.
Let me get this clear. You're saying that we have Soviet soldiers on American soil, General? That we've been invaded?
Yes, sir. It seems more are coming in. We have precious few units in the area, and they're putting up what resistance they can.
My God. What are our options?
They're rather limited, sir. If we start pulling divisions back from Europe, we'll lose what control do we...
I know. But don't we have anything to defend our own country with?
I've ordered what units that we have to go west, sir.
Who's leading them?
Colonel Sawyer, sir. He's as tough as they come.
Well, he better be. Assemble the staff. Situation room, 20 minutes.
Very well, Mr. President.
We fled east with the darkening sky behind us lighted by the many fires downtown. Some have later called the retreat organized, but I think it only seemed that way because we were all running in the same direction. Seattle was lost the moment those ships entered the harbor, and there was never any real chance of our holding the city. I try not to think about all those we were forced to leave behind. Captain Bannon kept us in a semblance of order, but I'll never know whether we were actually obeying his commands or they just happened to coincide with what we all thought best. We followed the freeway into the suburbs, with the war close on our heels. Some artillery had already landed in the area, and I remember seeing a broken swing set lying on its side, next to a blackened crater. I think that was when it hit me. We had been invaded, and nothing would ever be the same again.
My love, I hope this letter finds you well. In my heart, I feel I will know if something happens to you. It is so hard to face the day without you by my side.
My dearest Natasha, I am writing this sitting on a tractor, just like those we have on the kolkhozes back home. They are not so different from us, these Americans.
They have begun working triple shifts at the factory. I am glad that Inessa is not working nights. Many factories have been bombed, and I fear she...
Though I am a little worried about Kolya. He is very hard on the men, and when I tried to talk to him, he just shrugged it off. I will have to make it clear that he is under my command.
I think about all the boys over there whose mothers cannot sleep for worry. Those serving with you must be the lucky ones, Velocha, for I know that you care deeply for them.
I will be home soon enough. Until then, know that I love you. Your Vladimir.
In America itself, our valiant forces are making excellent progress. The front is expanded daily as city after city falls into our hands. Everywhere, our troops are met by cheating citizens happy to be liberated from the yoke of their oppressive government. Already, the American proletariat is joining us in spontaneous...
The initial landing went well, and within a few days we had Seattle secured and several regiments moving out into the surrounding countryside. It felt great to finally roam free after having spent weeks inside the cramped container ships. The Americans soon rallied their forces, though, and we began to encounter pockets of heavy resistance. After a pitched fight, they would melt back into the countryside, leaving us to count our dead and wounded. It didn't take long before the strain and frustration of being in a hostile country so far from home began to show on some of the men.
Yeah?
Hey, Earl.
Mark! It's about goddamn time that you called. Your mother's worried sick, you know that? I thought we agreed that you'd call at least once a week.
I'm sorry, but you might have noticed there's an invasion going on and...
Yeah, and you guys turned and tail and ran, and that's what we get with a bunch of spoiled brats defending our country.
We didn't have any choice. You know how many men we lost?
In my day, wouldn't have let those commie bastards come ashore in the first place. We would have fought them to the last man, with bayonets if we had to.
Yeah? I don't remember you winning any wars.
We won the battles, son. And if your father were alive, he'd cry to see what you've become. First, that business in Europe, and now you can't even hold your ground when the commies are in your own damn backyard. You goddamn sissy. Mark. Yeah, I'll tell your mother you called.
Earl! Damn it.
By blowing the highway bridge, we actually managed to slow the Russians down. For a while. The colonel led us south and we met little resistance along the way, but Bannon and Charlie Company kept lagging behind. Bannon blamed the mud, but I think he was secretly hoping to get away from the colonel. Eventually, we reached a small town called Pine Valley. It was decided that we would make a stand there and wait for reinforcements, but first, we had to retake the town from the airborne forces that had gotten there ahead of us. Most of the men hadn't slept for 2 or 3 days, and the colonel only allowed a few hours of rest. But I never heard a complaint. Everybody knew what was at stake and what we were fighting for.